All right, and we should be live. And my mic should be working this time. So, hey guys, how's it going? It's the Crypto Analyst here. I hope all of you guys are having a good morning, evening, as always, wherever you guys are from. And today I wanted to talk about Bitcoin and the price action that it has had recently. So, for those of you guys who don't know, I've actually had strep throat for the last 3 weeks or so, and then it was actually a traditional American holiday called Thanksgiving after that. So I was home with some family, and now that we are getting back into the swing of things, it's just in the nick of time because Bitcoin has had some beautiful price action recently, moving upwards, now moving back downwards. And I want to talk about the overall trend that Bitcoin's been in here because it's been a very unique one, and I don't think it takes a genius to really see that the overall trend here has been lower swing highs and consecutive lower swing highs and lower swing lows. So with this happening over here, it creates a very nice and very clear downtrend. And something that I definitely want to address over here is the fact that we are seeing new lows and we are seeing, again, consistently lower swing highs, which is something that happens on Bitcoin when quite obviously when something is in a downtrend. So with this happening, I want to give an update because, again, it has been at least a week, 2 weeks now, 3 weeks that I haven't been able to make some videos. So I do want to be able to catch up and explain my thoughts on this because I'm getting asked constantly, if this was the bottom for Bitcoin, should I be buying in here? And while the honest answer is that I cannot truthfully tell you guys where to purchase your assets just for legal, financial, and tax advice, I can say what I am doing and how I plan to play out this market. So welcome everybody. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that everything is working properly this time before we get too deep into this technical analysis, because it is telling me YouTube recently changed their live program so that the way live streaming works now is done differently. So I can't change titles. They deleted all of my tags. I can't change titles before the stream now, at least from my understanding. So there's a lot of things that I'm still getting used to. So bear with me here as we continually fix this. So I think everything is working now. So I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that we send out this link correctly this time. And now I have something popping up on my screen. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about this. I'll give everyone, of course, a couple of minutes to go ahead and join in here before we get too started. But one of the main topics that, of course, we're going to be talking about right now is the potential trend of Bitcoin and where it could bottom out from this point, because one of the things that I addressed originally is where Bitcoin could bottom out. That's something I want to elaborate on in today's video specifically. So let me get chat back up. Chat should be working properly now, and it is. Randy, welcome. RS Chris, welcome. Batman, welcome. And Handy Rams, welcome. Yay, made it. Woohoo. Yep, we have sound now. Moon those likes. I appreciate it, Batman. DCA, guys, buy some every week or two, especially if you think it is near the bottom. If you guys don't understand what Batman was just saying, he was DCA stands for dollar cost averaging your way into a position, essentially just layering lower amounts of buys than rather just having one buy all at one price. So say if you had $10,000 and you wanted to dollar cost average somewhere, and you were just saying, all right, anywhere under $7,000, it's that's my buy zone. And so instead of doing the traditional, well, I'm gonna blow all $10,000 right at this $7,000 mark in here, dollar cost averaging would say that you would essentially put like $500 in for every $200 Bitcoin goes. So every $200 you're putting 500 in, 500 in, 500 in. Essentially what that allows you to do is that as this goes down, you're scaling into positions, which brings your overall average entry down. Instead of smashing the entry at 7K, you're now averaging into a position with an average entry of like 6.7K or 6.8K or something like that. So that's the way dollar cost averaging works, and I really do like that method, Batman. You did not miss anything yet, Handy. We actually just restarted here. I'm about 55% sure we have bottomed already. 55% is, that's in the favor. Are we going to 5,500? Welcome, Tin. Welcome, Money Group. Defining DCA. Some people don't understand what it is, but, you do have to understand what it is in order to even elaborate on it. But furthermore, I want to go ahead and talk about the price action of Bitcoin here, because this falling channel is still being used in Bitcoin. And I'm glad I didn't delete this a couple weeks ago, because I was definitely considering it, but it's still being used beautifully. And the way that it's getting respected in here is working out quite well, to be honest. So with this, of course, being the top resistance line, the bottom support line, and then our heart line working its way through the middle of this channel, and here being this this dotted green line, it's quite clear that Bitcoin has been rejecting this, one time after another. Following the breakout, Bitcoin came back down, retested these levels, fell through, and then we can see now, if we zoom in here just a little bit, that Bitcoin, after breaking down, retested this former support, now turned resistance again after breaking back down in here, came up, tested this, rejected it, broke back through, and now we are having a little bit of what appears to be the potential of a break, hook, and go scenario. Now, this isn't any kind of a break, hook, and go that I would say is ideal, but I think it's a form of a break, hook, and go that can still work here. And essentially what this means is that former resistance is now turned support. Again, this isn't like some crazy resistance turning support. This isn't anything that's just game changing, but in the least, if you are a bull, you want to look at it from this perspective of if there's a bullish thing to look at, it's probably this one right here. So again, former resistance, now turn support once again. Again, we saw this come up, reject it, come back down, break through it, retest this level, and then come back up and start working its way towards the 200 EMA on the 4-hour chart, come back, retest this exact same level, saying, all right, this is now definitely going to be support, but seeing just a little bit of trouble from the 50 EMA from this 4-hour time scale. Moving this to the 1-day chart, I want to look at the EMAs on here, because quite clearly Bitcoin now has a death cross on this 1-day time scale, which is not good at all, especially if you are a bull. And what actually is very unique here is that you can see this beautiful wick off of former resistance now turned support on this 1-day time scale. So the fact that you're actually having a nice wick like this is something that I really do enjoy. I just don't know that if this is enough to change around the entirety of this trend. And in fact, I had someone ask me a couple days ago what my thoughts are on this, and because while it looked like it was having some great buying pressure, is this just ultimately going to be another lower swing high? And that's kind of the question that a lot of people are asking themselves here, is this just going to be a continuation in the downtrend that we've had since, roughly June, July of this summer, being 2019? Because quite clearly, guys, again, lower swing highs have just been happening just consistently on Bitcoin, while having consistently lower swing lows. Again, it's just this thing of where we're just in a nice little downtrend over here. So the projection of where is next, what if we just continue this and then we just go up here and then we come up and then we bounce a little bit only to get rejected and fall even further the next time. So this is where I have a lot of these levels over in here. Again, this is why I have all these white lines. Again, with Bitcoin breaking this one, it does still seem bearish in my opinion to me. The overall entirety of this bullish scheme was kind of outcasted and I would say discontinued when Bitcoin started breaking these levels of crucial support up in here, started tanking extremely fast, might I add, once it started breaking these supports, had a death cross, and as long as it stays underneath these EMAs, for the most part, and closing below these EMAs on the 1-day time scale, being the 50 and the 200 EMA, Bitcoin's still going to be in this short-term bearish downtrend that it's currently in. Now, I think that it could realistically have two outcomes from this current place. And actually, let's talk about this, because Bitcoin has 3 outcomes, and maybe I'll make a video on this tomorrow. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything in chat. Fair enough. 10K before the end of the year, in your opinion, Mr. Tintin Crypto. Massive bull flag. Target is at $17,000. Are you talking about the falling channel being the bull flag? Who said that? Gene, welcome. I don't know if I've ever seen you in here before. What is the bull flag? Are you talking about the channel, or is there some sort of pennant? Just out of curiosity. I'm not disagreeing with you, and in fact, I've said on this channel before that 17K is the overall next target for Bitcoin and the bulls to the upside. So I completely agree with you there. I just want to know what you're labeling as the bull flag, because some people label this stuff quite differently than I do. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's just different forms of technical analysis. Mate, you're a legend. Oh, thank you. I don't think so, but I'm just a normal guy who likes to do technical analysis on, well, honestly, on everything. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the indicators and oscillators, being the MACD and the RSI, and then we can move our way forwards from there. And I want to talk about, again, the three outcomes that I think are the most probable on Bitcoin, and I really don't see this happening any other way. So we'll talk about those in just 1 second. So if you guys are interested, go and stick around. But on the MACD right now, again, ever so slightly bullish divergence forming. The reason that I'm saying that is that this is a lower swing high, or a higher swing low on the on the daily MACD timescale, and also on the oscillators as well. You can see the exact same concept applying. Now, what does this mean? This means that there are lower levels of bearish momentum upon the swing low. We can see this quite clearly over here on the oscillators. This guy's starting to round down back towards the upside, and that with this MACD actually not reaching as high as the previous one, it does lead me to believe that this thing is going to look at least a little bit bullish in the short term. But with the MACD being a lagging indicator, I think that we're already seeing that playing out, and it doesn't seem that the bulls are too strong, at least not as of yet. So maybe looking for some sort of triple bullish or something like that. But for the time being, while this does overall say that the bears are getting weaker, it does not mean that the bears are done moving this down yet. And I think that that's something that people get confused a lot with, that while the bulls are continually getting weaker and can continue to get weaker until, the year end, until maybe even of spring of 2020, while they can continue to get weaker, that doesn't mean that the price will not stop from continuing to move downwards. The price can continue to move to new lows while the bears continue to weaken across that duration. So with this moving into the RSI, these will probably correlate over each here. Very, very similar thing. So what we can see over here is that, again, a lower swing or a higher swing low on this relative strength index, signifying that, again, lower levels of negative momentum upon this attempt to the downside from the bears. Now, again, with this bouncing from this region, I would imagine that this comes back down to at least the 30 zone or the oversold territory on the daily MACD. Again, that's a very, very popular area, and I have a lot of dots on this chart, excuse that. But again, this being a very, very popular retracement area, because the 30 is the oversold territory. And if you guys want to see any examples of this, I wish I can kind of just clear all this out, but these are all meant for the 4-hour time scale, but for whatever reason they translate over to my 1-day time scale. But clearing this out just a little bit so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about, is that right in here, again, you see that this is a very popular range coming back down to this area just time and time again, and bouncing off this. And the same rule kind of goes for this upper area being the overbought area. However, in the history, it tends to respect the oversold territory a lot more than the overbought territory. Sometimes it does work out, sometimes not quite as well. Of course, just flying through these levels at some points. Mainly on the 3-day time scale. So if you guys are wondering what these orange lines are, these orange lines are from the 3-day time scale, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have probably seen this already, but this is just common retracement areas for the relative strength index on Bitcoin. Again, being these orange lines being the categories of where Bitcoin likes to retrace to and from and bounce in these areas. Now, this is not a candle chart, so I want to make sure that that's clear, and then move back into the 4-hour time scale. So on Bitcoin over here, what am I missing over on chat? I'm thinking a dip to 6,800. Well, oh, there's also, okay, so before I talk about the 3 outcomes, I want to talk about this. Of course, being an inverse head and shoulders, which kind of lines up to what you were just saying. Where's my head and shoulders? There we go. 1, 2, 3. It's really not going to work. So with this being an potential inverse head and shoulders, one, it's a very small inverse head and shoulders. The fact that you can only see it on a 4-hour time scale or smaller is a little bit concerning. Usually for inverse head and shoulders, they are reversal formations. So with this, again, being so small and only being able to see it on such a small time scale, and with this, again, being a bottoming formation, I'm a little bit skeptical that a bottoming formation would be this small because, or not a bottoming, I think a reversal is a better term for this, but the fact that a reversal formation would be this small is a little bit, I don't know what the word would be. I would say a little bit nervous, a little bit critical. I'm a little bit critical that something this significant would be this small, because some people are saying this has to be the bottom. This is a very clear inverse head and shoulders. This is the reversal formation that we see time and time again in Bitcoin. So why can't it just reverse here? Again, the big kind of argument that I have against this case, against this being the case, is that one, this is such a small inverse head and shoulders. I don't think that, again, is something that when we're zooming out onto the overall macro of Bitcoin, saying this little key defining area is going to be just the cornerstone for everything that happens next. Again, I think that it's just too small. I think that if we're going to see something that is just really this monstrous support, very clear bounce, bottoming out, consistent lowers or higher swing lows, it'll be very hard to say, in my opinion, that this is going to be that point. But, it very well could. So I'm acknowledging the fact that there is an inverse head and shoulders here. I'm just saying that I don't like the way that it looks as of right now, just because of how small it is on the macro timescale and on the macro chart of Bitcoin in and of itself. So for my 3 key principles about where I think Bitcoin's going to go from here, let's go ahead and draw these out, because people tend to like when I do that. So with Bitcoin, and let me just move that just a little bit down. So with Bitcoin being in this area, I think that it has 3 key, I don't know how to even explain this, 3 key courses that it can take. The first being that it bottomed out here, and this guy is just going to continue moving back up and start conquering some of these higher highs, moving its way up above 14,000 and up to 17,000. So let's just talk about this thing. Option 1, we bottom out, and it does something like this. Now, obviously, not quite as parabolic. When I draw charts like this, people are like, oh my God, it's going to be at 12K by January of 2020. No, I mean, I'm just saying that the overall trend is going to be moving upwards. The second one is that this guy is just kind of getting started, or it's finishing up its trip to the downside, but it's not quite over yet, and that it could bottom out very well at this 5.5 or the mid $5,000 mark, and at its lowest being the $4,200 support level that we previously saw at the top of this ascending triangle and reversal formation over the course, or at the beginning of 2019, which was about a year ago. So this one being that it's going to come down to around the mid 5,000s and then start moving its way upwards from here. The third and final one, which is the most bearish of the 3, is going to be that Bitcoin is actually just getting started over here, and that it's getting ready to hit new lows, below $3,000, and continually just move down towards the $1,000 range. So those are the 3 principles that I only see playing out from Bitcoin in here. I think anything else is, obviously possible. To say that it can only do these 3 things, I understand is a little bit narrow visioned or tunnel visioned, but I think that these are definitely the most probable outcomes, in that these are the most crucial areas that I see in the technical analysis, in the technical analysis chart of Bitcoin right now. So of course I want to make a video on this tomorrow, again talking about this potential inverse head and shoulders, and with these 3 different ways that Bitcoin can go. But number 1, of course, let me just recap this real fast. Number 1, Bitcoin is going to, and I shouldn't even be using this highlight tool. Number 1 is that Bitcoin's actually bottomed out here. It's going to just continue in this upwards trend from here. Number 2 is that it hasn't hit bottom yet, but that it's very close to hitting bottom, and that it's going to bounce around 5,000, or the mid 5,000s. And option number 3 is that Bitcoin's just getting started, and this downtrend is going to go and just be a continuation of what we saw over the course of 2018 and 2017, and that this is just going to be a continuation in the downtrend, moving all the way down to the relatively low to the $1,000 area before bouncing out and then having its next parabolic market cycle. And let me go ahead and clear some of this stuff up now, because I am going to make a video on this tomorrow. I want my chart to be just a little bit clearer. If you guys have any questions or anything, be sure to ask as well. I'd love to be able to answer those questions for you guys. Did Gene ever get back about the bull flag? I'd love to be able to see it. So my price prediction for Bitcoin as of right now is, I mean, again, I think that it's heading down. I think it's getting close to bottoming out, but I don't think it's quite bottomed out yet. I don't think that this is enough for me to say that Bitcoin has bottomed. It's very clearly in a downtrend, and while it can bounce, I think that ultimately it's going to go for a new low, and that this 6.5K is, temporary bottom or local bottom. Will not ultimately hold, and that it will break this and come back down. So for that reason, I haven't bought any Bitcoin in here. I actually plan on I'm actually planning on starting my dollar cost average anywhere around the low 7,000s, high 6,000s, and below. And that's something that I've said for a long time. If you go back and you watch my videos, anywhere in the 6,000s or below, I'm totally okay with buying Bitcoin. So did not buy any in here. The last time I bought Bitcoin was around 3,500, 600, somewhere over in this area. And I actually plan on dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin as it continues to move down over here, which is something that I believe that it will do. So moving back to the 4-hour time scale, Bitcoin still has plenty of more room to move up to the upside over here. Again, this thing can move all the way back up to the mid 8,000s and before it even sees another rejection. And it would be totally legitimate and logical if it were to do that, and something that I wouldn't be nervous about. Again, the whole idea behind dollar cost averaging is that in the odd case that this is the bottom for Bitcoin, I still do hold some, and I'm totally fine with that. But we'll see as this continues. Handy Ram says, remember when I said Ethereum at 120? You said maybe 160. What do you think of it now? Well, I'll tell you what. Let's go take a look. I haven't looked at Ethereum in some time. Cool. Oh, that's not the one I wanted. Seems it cracked that 160 support. It was a really good bounce off of it, though. So with where are we here? Yeah, so I haven't looked at the Ethereum chart in a while. Can we draw up? We really can't draw any support. Maybe if nah, I don't even think that works. Let's go to the 3-day. So for Ethereum, it's definitely in a hard spot right now. Yeah, I don't even know if you can draw in a support line here. But we can try. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even think you can connect that as one. I mean, you can try connecting like this to this, and that would say around high to mid 120s. I just don't know how valid of a support line that wick's going to be. I think that wick's just on Coinbase. So if I'm ignoring that and I'm just looking at the local technical analysis for Ethereum, I would say that right now, obviously, it's in pretty much the same exact situation as Bitcoin. It's in this downtrend, and it needs to be able to break that, and it hasn't shown any signs that it wants to. As long as it holds above the bottom of $82 or $80 or whatever this is, I think it's in a good situation. It's kind of in the same boat as Bitcoin, though, in that if this is just a continuation in the overall downtrend since the course of like 2017, 2018, then if this support breaks, I mean, it's going to be a parabolic fall in all cryptocurrencies, so not just Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin breaks 3,100 or whatever it was, and Ethereum breaks $82, I mean, yes, you do have a lot of support down in here, but like while Ethereum would only fall, say, like $80 to $40, people would go, oh, well, it only fell $40, but that's 50%. So if it were to fall $50 at $200, that'd be like 20% or something like that. But if it were to fall $40 at, say, $80, the whole reason why that would be so much more brutal is that it's such a larger percent of the overall asset going down, just because it's worth so much less now. So if it were to fall $40 from in here, it's 50% of its value going away, which is a lot. I mean, no joking. So with Ethereum and what I think that it's going to do in here is, I mean, we have to find a support line first, honestly. So I'm not even sure what we can do. I mean, there's no, there's kind of this. I mean, I could definitely see, oh, well, actually you have a nice little parallel channel kind of forming. So what we're actually going to do here is we're going to draw up this parallel channel tool and throw this guy in here while getting rid of our former white lines. So you can see that the heart line is actually working out pretty well as well. And let's move this to the 4-hour time scale. And there we go. So for the most part, working out pretty well. Seeing a nice little rejection from the heart line of this channel. Again, I'll make this a little bit bigger so that we can see. Seeing a nice rejection from the heart line of this channel and from the 50 EMA on this 4-hour time scale. So it looks like it wants to at least move back down, maybe test a potential higher swing low, and then move forward. Overall top that I see it going is around 180. And I think you're pretty much actually spot on about that 120 call, because if it wants to go to a new low, the next area that I would see it like moving at like a decently normal rate is around this 120 area. So if it just continues heading downwards from here and it wants to go back towards the bottom of this falling channel that it's currently in, next support's going to be around $120, excuse me, not $1. So with this $160, and let me explain the $160 reason. So the $160 mark for Ethereum was a really big support line all over in really all over in here. So over in here, you had this 160 bottom, 160 bottom, around 160 bottom, 160 hold, 160 hold, again 160 hold. This $160 area all over in here, excuse me, right over in here. I can't even grab it. All in here, with this support breaking, obviously is pretty parabolic. So it broke that 160 mark entirely, broke these ultimate swing lows of 150, came all the way down to around 130. And I think that it could definitely fall. If it wants to break again, it could definitely fall all the way to 120, because 120, where is 120 over here? It's nothing too significant. I mean, we'll have to see. I think that the ultimate name of the game for Ethereum, while it is in this nice falling channel right now, and it's working out very, very well, something that I'm sure a lot of people are trading, I think you have to watch it in perspective to Bitcoin. Because if Bitcoin's going to be moving all over the place, altcoins, for the most part, 9 times out of 10, altcoins are following Bitcoin. They're not moving independently in this market, which, again, I wish wasn't the case. But for the most part, the altcoins are following Bitcoin. If Bitcoin's moving up 3%, altcoins are moving up 5%. If Bitcoin's going down 2%, altcoins are going down 3-4%. It's just how it is right now. And if we go when we pull up coin market cap over here, I mean, I'm sure for the most part we see this. So everything's relatively stable today. Nothing's really moving anywhere. Well, you have Tron actually moving. I saw Justin Sun tweeting out some stuff today. But for the most part, everything's sitting around 1% today. Bitcoin 0.5%, Ethereum 0.5%, 0.25%, almost 0.25%, almost 0.25%, 1%, 2%, 0.75%, 1%, 1%, 3%, 1%, 1%, 1%. And then again, as you go down the list, the lower the market cap goes, of course, the volatility increases, which is where you start seeing, 3%, 5%, 7%, 8%, 10%. And I'm sure once we get to the bottom of this, I mean, you see a very big change from the top being 0.5%, 1%, 2% to the bottom being 6%, 3%, 2%, 6%, 3%, 6, 3, 3, 21, 3, 5. And the reason for this volatility increase is because of the overall market cap being smaller and thus volatility being easier. So overall, to answer your question, Handy Rams, is that $120 is still very possible. I think the overall dependency is still tethered to Bitcoin. If Bitcoin's going to continue to move down here, so is Ethereum. Again, seeing rejection, so no one is interested in crypto these days. I'll be bullish as long as that's true dollar cost average for me until we hit at least $28,000. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I wouldn't be making videos and I wouldn't be investing in it if I didn't think it was going somewhere. Again, I fully understand that it's a long-term play. I've never said that I expect Bitcoin to be above $20,000 by the end of this year. I believe my end-of-year prediction for Bitcoin was $6,000, and Fib Philbs, really intelligent guy at predicting the price movements of Bitcoin on a macro scale, his prediction was $7,000. So we're both pretty similar in the range. He's a little bit more bullish than I am, but I fully understand as an investor and someone who's been in this for quite literally years that it could very well be a slow process, but I think it's overall going to be a rewarding one. Moving back to Bitcoin. Something that I've been doing though is I have been investing a lot into like smaller market caps that I think have a lot of potential. So smaller market caps that I'm fine with holding for like years. And if I never get paid out, I'm fine. But if they do go somewhere, things that I think that have like quite serious intrinsic value, or things that I think can easily be applicable in the future. So while they might not be worth a lot now, I think that in the future they could be very applicable, very used, and very useful. It's kind of the whole idea of a lot of the cryptos today, while they were just cool concepts and they had the potential to be applicable in the future, now that they are starting to be applied, hence EOS, XRP, Ravencoin, things like that. Now that they are starting to be applied, of course, their market cap grows with that and alongside of that. So I'm right there with you. I do want to wrap this up. I don't know if you guys can tell. My voice is still a little bit froggy, but we are getting back onto the track, and we'll have a lot of videos coming out this week that I will be uploading and editing. Coming out over the whole duration of this week. So my final thoughts on Bitcoin before I go ahead and start wrapping this up is that, again, the trend is your friend. The trend is still in the downtrend, so I am still going to be sitting bearish on Bitcoin. I'm looking at the one-day EMAs for the most part. Ethereum in a great falling channel right now. Bitcoin still has that falling channel that's in play, using it as support and resistance pretty constantly. But I think that the overall trend on Bitcoin is still down, and that it should probably come for a new low, breaching back into the $6,000 range, and it'll be cool to see what it does from there. But that being said, I think we covered just about everything that I needed to today. I didn't really talk about the volume and everything, but it was a nice video to get me back into this. I really like doing live streams because it helps me get back into like the flow of YouTube. If I just come in and I just try to start making videos again, it's quite difficult. And I find that my videos aren't quite as informative as I want them to be. So if I do live streams to kind of get myself back into this flow in speaking, definitely does help out. So tomorrow's video is going to be talking about the 3 possibilities that I see on Bitcoin and which ones I think are the most probable and are going to happen. I also am going to be talking about this inverse head and shoulders in tomorrow's video on this 4-hour time scale, and then I'll see what happens for the rest of the week. I'll probably make a video on Ethereum. I'll want to make a video on the fib retracements of Bitcoin, and that's actually another thing that I didn't get to talk about today. So what I might do is how long in are we? about just over half an hour. So I think in tomorrow's video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the broken fib levels, the possible inverse head and shoulders on the 4-hour time scale, and the 3 possibilities that I see Bitcoin going from here. And maybe I'll split that up into 2 videos, but I also want to do a video covering the falling parallel channel that Handy Rams brought up on Ethereum, specifically on the 4-hour time scale. Something that I do want to note before I leave is to keep an eye on the volume here. Volume is very clearly falling off for the time being, which gives me the indication that a volatile move could be coming within the next couple of days. So as we are entering into the beginning of December, I do expect a pretty volatile move to start occurring. And I want to look at this. This is on the daily, actually, which is a little bit more scary. Very, very clear from this 4-hour time scale that the volume is falling off, as well as the daily. But, I mean, especially over in here, guys, if you're looking down here, every swing high on this volume chart is falling consistently lower. So, what we might do here is we might go into a period of consolidation followed by a volatile move, and that's probably what I would expect. Yeah. All right. So if there is no other topics, I will go ahead and start wrapping this up. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you guys haven't already, hit that like button, as it does help out the channel a lot. If you guys did like what you guys saw today, hit that subscribe button, as we will have a lot more content coming out talking about the future of cryptocurrencies and everything in this field. And yeah, I got a lot of cool things that I want and that are going to start coming to the channel very, very soon. I'm glad that I'm better. I'm glad that I can finally speak again and put out these videos, because it's been too long, and you know, this is what I really thoroughly enjoy doing. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys all very, very soon, and until next time, guys, stay safe out there.